Hello and welcome to another episode of Diskourse featuring me, DJ Tomiwa. This is a series where we discuss all things DJing and music, and today we're discussing some DJing. So if you haven't watched the first part of this series, I would really encourage you to go and check that out. I talked about why DJs charge, and if you think about all the elements that construct the DJ's reasoning for charging, that will help you to think about how the DJs should charge, which is what I'm going to discuss today. So when I talk about how DJs should charge, I'm not talking about how much they should charge. If you want me to make a video on that, let me know in the comments below. But in all honesty, I think it's actually more constructive to discuss how DJs should charge. And what I mean by that is, on what basis should they charge? This is always a bit of a tricky topic because from the customer's perspective, they don't want to get ripped off, and I completely understand that. If you're hiring a DJ, there's always a bit of uncertainty in terms of the service they're going to provide unless you've seen them up front in person, which oftentimes you haven't. So because of that, you don't want to end up putting too much money and too much faith into a DJ who's just looking for an opportunity to rip someone off. However, for us DJs, it's actually a bit awkward as well because we don't want to undercharge in respect to our abilities and experience, and also the service that we can provide. Today's video, I'm really looking for feedback from both clients and DJs because we're going to be discussing two of the most popular approaches for charging as a DJ. One is booking on a fixed price per hour, and the other is booking a more flexible overall approach. And we're going to discuss the pros and cons of both of those approaches, and I want to know what you guys think is better. And of course, I'll let you know what I do as a DJ as well. So first up, the most simple approach, of course, is just to charge a fixed price per hour. For example, you say you want to book me for 10 hours, I'll charge you £100 per hour. It's £1,000. That's simple, right? And I'll say straight away, the big pro of this approach is that it's very clear and straightforward for clients. They know exactly what they're getting and how much they're being charged for it. And if they're getting less hours or more hours, they usually know that fixed price is the same, so they'll be charged according to how many hours they want. I will say this approach is particularly useful for club DJs because they don't usually bring equipment. They usually just bring their decks or their storage system, their USB storage system, and just plug in and play. They usually have a fixed price that they charge for their slot. However, from a mobile DJ perspective, i.e. a DJ that brings their own equipment, their own sound, this approach can be a bit more problematic because we have a lot more aspects that we have to factor in when we're setting our price. So for example, if I'm saying I want to charge you £100 per hour, it's a little bit tricky because that £100 per hour, it feels different to me if I'm doing it in London, 20 minutes from my house, or if I'm doing it outside of London, 2 hours from my house. And of course you can say just charge a fixed price per mile to make up for that. But then there's the other aspect of, depending on the size of your event, I might need to bring extra equipment, extra sound system, or I might need to hire a car. And now my hourly price is becoming less and less useful as a reflection of how much this event is actually going to cost to me. So for me, the problem with this approach, generally speaking, is that it generally favors the client because they don't have to worry about anything. You have to worry about all the extra little things. And if you have to take a loss, you take a loss. And that's kind of unfortunate on the DJ, in my opinion. And of course, some DJs won't take the loss for the client. In fact, what they'll do is they'll increase their hourly price or their fixed price even more so that they make sure that they always make a good gain, regardless of the situation. And this will now put the client at a disadvantage. What I mean by this is very simple. If I say, do you know what, yeah, from now on, my price is going to be £200 per hour. So I make sure that no matter how many speakers I have, or no matter how long I have to drive to get to the venue, I always make a good gain. But then if you're doing a very small event that's close to me, for example, and I'm charging you the same as the person further away, and I'm doing a lot less work, then you're basically paying me more. And that's not really fair on you. Some DJs will do a package system, and they'll usually have like a gold, silver, bronze package. So depending on how big the event is or how many extras you ask for, such as like dance floor, smoke machine, all these things, the price fluctuates. But I end up finding that these sort of package systems aren't very flexible for everybody, and you could end up having to pay for things that you don't necessarily want. So again, to give an example, let's say you don't want the bronze package because it's not long enough, so you want the silver package, and the silver package comes with, I don't know, lighting system, but you don't want a lighting system because your decorator is providing that. Then you end up paying for something they don't want, and then it ends up being a situation where you have to now pick and choose from each package and you have to negotiate, and it becomes very confusing. And you're kind of like, you might as well just do an overall price anyway. Or it's kind of like you might end up having lots of different packages, and it ends up being a bit like when you go to a fast food restaurant, for example, and let's say you go to McDonald's, you want a Big Mac, but if you say I don't actually want the fries in my meal, I just want the drinks and the burger, can you reduce the price according to the fries? They won't do that. Then you end up having to pay more, and you end up getting something that's less value for you. But that works okay with McDonald's because you're only paying, £5 or £10 or whatever, right? But when it comes to bigger events and DJing, it means you can end up losing hundreds of pounds on things that you don't really want. And I think that's a bit unfair. Which brings me to the second approach, which is a completely flexible approach where you tell the DJ all the details of your event and they give you an overall price based on the details that you've given. Now, because they give you an overall price, you don't know exactly what you're paying for. So you don't know how many hours are contributing to that price. You don't know how much the travel cost is contributing to that price. And you don't know how much, for example, the equipment costs are contributing to that price. But they give you an overall price based on your event, and you have to just hope that the DJ is giving it to you in good faith, not trying to rip you off. From the DJ's perspective, this is a good approach because it makes sure that you always set the price. You're never going to get ripped off by the client. But for the client, it can lead to a lot of uncertainty, particularly when some details aren't certain. For example, let's say you were originally thinking about having an 8-hour event, but now you're going to reduce it to 6 hours. How's that going to reduce your price? Is it going to go down by £50? Is it going to go down by £100? You don't know. You have to just hope the DJ is going to be merciful to you and give you a good price. So you can see straight away there's pros and cons to both approaches, but which is the right one? Neither of them are perfect in my opinion. Which brings me onto my stance, okay? This is the stance that I currently have, but I really want to know your feedback and know if I should adjust and maybe tweak it more to one of the two approaches that I've outlined so far. So my approach is essentially a combination of the fixed and the flexible approaches, but I would say it's slightly more to the flexible approach. What happens is that when a client comes to me and they say I've got an event, I usually have a price in mind, like a general price in mind for how much I'll charge for that type of event. So for example, if a client comes to me and says, oh, I've got a wedding in the summer, I know that generally speaking, I might charge like about £1,000, let's just say, for argument's sake. That's not my actual price, just to make that clear. I'm just giving an overall example. So once I've got that overall price in my head, I'll then tweak it depending on various factors that are specific to that booking. Okay, so for example, okay, that event has this many people. Well, that means I have to bring this many speakers. If that's my normal amount of speakers, then I might just keep the price the same. If it's an extremely high amount of speakers, then I might have to increase the price. If it's a low amount of speakers or no speakers, then I might reduce the price because it makes the event more favorable or more desirable for me. Is your event closer? Does that mean I'm going to have to spend less time driving, less petrol costs and all these things? Then I might say, okay, I'll reduce my price because again, it makes it more desirable. Another key thing that I factor in is demand, okay? So I'm not going to charge the same for a Saturday as I am for a Wednesday or Thursday, for example, because there's less demand from clients. At certain times of the year, I can guarantee that I'm going to get probably about 5 or 6 requests for that day. So I have to make sure that I get well compensated for whichever booking I take on that day. Even the time of the day. So for example, if your event is in the morning, which is extremely rare, then that's more desirable to me because I know that I probably can get an event in the evening too that I can do, so I can do 2 events in that day. So I really want to emphasize here, I'm not a business expert or anything like that by any stretch of the imagination, but I do understand that the more the demand is, the more the price has to be. The more desirable the event is, then the less I can charge. So these are things that I think about when I make my price, but I always make sure my price is fair for my clients and I do not try to overcharge them. But I'm very much aware that they have to just trust me on that. But as a DJ, the last thing you want to do is do an event, be the first one there, the last one to leave, and then be thinking to yourself, man, that wasn't worth the effort. I should have just stayed at home. It wasn't worth the price. Also, I do want to say, for me personally, I struggled a lot with pricing as a DJ, particularly in my early years, because you're thinking, I don't want to charge people too much. You're really scared that people are going to reject your booking if you charge them too much. So for a lot of years, I didn't really believe how much I should be charging. And I think I made a lot of mistakes as a result, unfortunately. And what ends up happening is that you get a lot of bookings because you're charging too little. You're working really, really hard and you're not getting well paid for the service that you provide. And you're getting exploited. So if there's any beginner DJs watching this, I'm hoping that they'll learn from this and learn lessons that I learned the hard way. So guys, what do you think? I'd really love to hear your thoughts from clients and DJs. Do you think the fixed pricing structure is the best? Or do you think that the flexible one is better? Do you disagree with some of the points that I've made, or do you agree with some of them? I'd really love to know in the comments. This Discourse channel is designed for these sort of conversations. We want to learn and improve collectively. So I really appreciate your contribution and participation in this topic. So I'm really looking forward to seeing your comments. So don't forget to like and subscribe for more content in the future. It's definitely a topic that we're going to touch on again because money is very important to DJing for both clients and DJs. But yeah, until next time, thanks and stay blessed.
So much to say and not enough time.